straight out of the rules that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This is an unusual occasion for us. You are here on invitation, but with the understanding that we will stick to the rules again this morning. No controversial matters will be discussed. Please, we ask your cooperation. This is a very sensitive press conference, and we ask you to honor that and to stick to the purpose of this morning. And the purpose is to give Yolande the opportunity to present herself and her children to the world, and to give her the opportunity just to open her heart to you. And those are the rules. Please, no controversy. We're not talking politics of any kind. Thank you. Yolande will talk to you, and we will allow the rules that we set. Thank you, President. Can you make it louder?
Thank you for having the persistence, the perseverance, despite the moments, difficulties and challenges in life. Their perseverance to try to live in our lives is the essence of what we learning people all about. Thank you to the South African government for the support for DERCA, the consular services, all the administrative staff. There's so many along this journey. I cannot name all of them. And most of all, South Africa, the voice of prayer that went up throughout this country, throughout Yemen, throughout the world. It was a unified voice. Your compassion, your support has been phenomenal. That brings me to the most difficult question that we had on the walks this morning. And that is why the voice of prayer went up. Why was it not answered in the way that we wanted it answered? Why was it not answered in the way that you wanted it answered? This morning when we received Pierre's remains, I visualized something different. We had visualized him holding us in his arms and hearing his soft voice. But this morning, when he arrived, there was immense relief that this suffering for him is finished. And the reality of this will never again be. But in our hearts, he will never die. He has been the most amazing Father, and it's so easy to die, give him praise and honor. But this morning I can honestly say and testify that he has been an amazing husband. If it was not for him, I would not have made my time in captivity. He kept me up when I couldn't go anymore. He has been the most amazing father to his two children. Patient when I was not patient. Friendly when I was not friendly. And he has left a footprint in the hearts of many, many, many boys in South Africa. But let me come back to that question of why. Why does God not answer the questions and the prayers? Why are we struggling today? I just so wish I had the right answer for you. But I want to give an answer in the face of this, to say that God has made us with a choice, a will to make our own choices. And we make choices every day that just has effect on everlasting. He does not bulldoze us to make decisions that he wants. He lets us make our own decisions. So today we are here to choose. To choose to say that we trust him. To choose to say that we will live in his embrace. To choose to forgive those that caused this thing, that caused Pierre's thing. What will it help to find out what happened? Will it bring Pierre back? But we choose to let it go. And you all today have a choice how you will carry this story out into the world. So not only do we have a choice, but you all are part of this story, and you have a choice. Again, just my utmost thanks to everybody involved. was so meaningful. The compassion, the letters. I just can go on the whole day. And that's what I want to end with. It's just to give a picture of the compassion of the nation. Thank you for coming today to see us and talk with us. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
We will take a few questions. Please keep in mind what we've asked you.
Hi, my name is Deborah Patter from CBS News. I don't want to obviously ask your children questions, but maybe to ask you. I understand they wrote letters over these months to keep his memory alive. They did well in school. Just, the effect that it's had on them, what they're thinking now.
Sorry, just repeat the last part.
The effect that this has had on them, because they've managed to keep his memory alive.
I think most of all, I deeply mourn for their loss. Remember, they never said goodbye, whereas I had the opportunity of 8 months being with Pierre. So they never said goodbye, and we hope that this. They wrote letters, and at home we cook his favorite food, and we wear his old grey college t-shirts, and we say the things that he said, and we will keep his legacy alive.
Yes, gentleman over there.
Malungelo boy from ENCA and ENEWS. Mrs. Korkie, the last time we spoke to you here, it was, and today, and today you are talking to us about your husband. When you were at the bottom, his remains arrived here, what went through your mind? Just take us there. And also, because you were in Yemen with your husband, do you actually regret having gone there now that this has ended in such a manner? Thank you so much.
So, as I said, this morning at the Air Force Base was very emotional for all of us. We visualized it differently, but we have intense relief that he has come back, that he has been returned to us, and we wish to express our gratefulness to the USA for bringing his remains home. It is something to be grateful for amidst all the pain. It could have been so different. So it is a special gift to have his remains and have closure. Your second question, do we regret? But one can never regret when you have lived with people that have nothing. This is God's will.
SABC Monitor, SABC, Mrs. Korkie, if you don't mind, will you give your message of forgiveness in very short, summarized in Afrikaans for us? There's a recorder in front of you with a red button. If you can just hold it nearer to your mouth, I would appreciate it very much. Thank you. Yes.
Goed, die vraag vir die boodskap van vergifnis. ons kan vra oor hoekom dit gebeur het en wat gaan ons daardeur bereik? Wat is die boodskap wat ons wil los in die wêreld? Daar is soveel negatiewe boodskappe. Ons kan nie weer te haat iemand terugbring nie. En daarom wil ons vandag kom sê, ons vergewe onvoorwaardelik. Alles wat gebeur het en die verlies wat ons moet deurwerk, ons vergewe regtig. Ek sit nie vanoggend hier en maak of dit so is nie. Ek sal dit nooit kan doen om hier voor julle te sit vandag. Maar ons kom en ons kom vergewe. Want dit is die boodskap wat die wêreld nodig het. Nie meer haat nie. Onvergewensgesindheid is soos om gif te drink, maar jy wag vir die ander persoon om dood te gaan.
Yes, you can also put your question.
Kristen Finsky from AFP. Mrs. Korkie, if you could perhaps just take us back a few years ago when you first went to Yemen, if you could tell us what motivated you and your husband to go there and about the good times you had there.
Thank you. Yes, on the 6th of December 2009, we entered Yemen as a family. We had been there previously as an exchange for university. My husband has a heart for the poor people, and the first time we set foot in the country, the immense poverty, the need just consumed us. So my husband is a retired teacher, and a teacher is a teacher is a teacher. And of course he could see the teaching opportunities. So we endeavored for a few years to go and teach and serve in hospitals. And there were some amazing moments.
Hi, Chrislise Miller from OFM in Bloemfontein. Yolande, the last memory when they took you away. Could you speak to Pierre?
The last memory and the last words that I heard from Pierre was we held each other. He could not hear at that stage anymore, and he said, "I love you, and tell the children I love them."
I'll allow one more question.
Ekskuus tog, Wikus Burger van Volksblad in Bloemfontein. Yolande, ek wil net weet, na alles wat gebeur het, en jy het nou baie gepraat oor Pierre, wat is die, ek weet daar so baie goed wat julle dalk kon geleer het van hom, maar wat is die, as jy dalk kortliks kan sê, die goed wat jy en jou kinders van jou man geleer het, na alles wat gebeur het?
Should I answer in English or Afrikaans? Okay, he asked, what is it that we learned from Pierre? What would be the memory? I learned that there is potential in every person. He saw the potential in every person. He could really draw it out of a person. He drew it out of the children, and we learned from him the forgiveness. That is his, if that would be his story today, then that would be what he would want to say.
Thank you. That ends the session. I just want to conclude by telling you there will be no personal interviews hereafter. Yolande will be working on telling the Korkie story, which will be published in due time.
Allow me just to end off this morning. Thank you, Anas. Shukran. Ya Akhwani. Yemen.
Thank you, people, for your kindness.
Funeral details. Done? Just funeral details, if it's open to the public or it's a private funeral and when it's taking place.
We are hoping to have a memorial service on Friday in Bloemfontein at 10. We've not been able to find a suitable venue, but you will all via the media be informed. Thereafter there will be a private ceremony and burial for the family. For Pierre.
Thank you. Thank you very much, media, for asking questions within the framework of what you state of Yolande. This morning when I spoke to her, I must be honest, this has been a great stress for her. She said, we discussed the press conference at a time when we were discussing negotiations, Pierre's release. And part of that discussion, when I spoke to Yolande last week, she asked me, what will you do, how will you get Pierre out? And I worked out the whole logistics and I explained to her, keep your mind at ease. We will get him to Aden, we'll take him to Turkey, we'll get you to Turkey or wherever. And part of that I said, when Pierre is okay, when he comes to South Africa, I even told her, we will not alert the media. We will not let you know until he's in South Africa and he has reconciled with Yolande, has spent time and bonded with his wife and his children. And when Pierre himself feels fine, and if he agrees, we would have a press conference simply for this purpose, like what it was today, but in a more happy sense, to say to all South Africans who are waiting, because 55 million people in this country were supporting Yolande and Pierre. We had that feeling every day. The calls came from the media, from the ordinary people, and this was a thank you to the people of South Africa, to the people of Yemen, and the people throughout the world. The people of South Africa have shown the Ubuntu spirit of our nature. It goes beyond race, color, and religion. We've seen how people were broken when that news came on Saturday morning. Everyone stood as one nation. And we applaud South Africans for that. It didn't matter to them what the color was, who the person was. He was South African. He died in tragic circumstances in Yemen, and we all stand by him. I think we need to salute all South Africans for that. Yolande this morning, she was amazing. She said, I need to have the press conference a little earlier. All I'm going to do now is receive Pierre's handover. If the body comes, the remains, I'm only going to do the handover. But to actually see Pierre, I will do that later. I will not be able to come to this press conference. So she held back her for the purpose of fulfilling that mission to come and greet all of you and to send the message to the world. Our prayers are with her, all stand with her, to support all the family and friends. And thereafter she needs to be in privacy, to have a space to grieve, and may God heal her and the children very soon. Yolande, you have been an amazing person. Thank you very much. Conference is over.
Thank you.
There is refreshments in the room and outside there. The copy of the book that Gift of the Givers has written is available as a compliment to whoever wants it. Thank you very much.
Story. We are now joined by our US correspondent Simon Marks, and he's joining us from Washington. Simon, good afternoon. Thanks for speaking to us here on ENCA. First of all, we are hearing reports that the US intelligence service is saying that they did
With Pierre Korkie's tragic death front page news in the United States, the Obama administration defended itself against allegations that in the raid on Yemen, it shot first and asked questions later. At the White House, spokesman Josh Earnest denied the US had any knowledge of Mr. Korkie's whereabouts, no knowledge, too, of the negotiations that had taken place to secure his release.
What I can tell you is that the United States had no information that there were private negotiations underway for the release of Mr. Korkie.
And at the State Department, more difficult questions posed by ENCA's Lorna Shattuck.
It seems that there wasn't enough communication about the status of this hostage.
Well, I think a very important point here is the fact that we did not know who the other hostage was. We did not know what country they were from. There wouldn't have been a way to, it wouldn't have made sense, in fact, for us to reach out to the South African government. We didn't have information at the time that led us to believe the other individual was from South Africa.
My name is Yolande Korkie. I was held by Al-Qaeda in Yemen.
It isn't just the family and friends of Pierre Korkie that are asking questions. Relatives of Luke Summers, the American killed in the weekend raid, also criticized it. His stepmother said the US had kept the family in the dark about the attempted rescue, and she said her son would have wanted negotiations to secure his release, not a firefight. The State Department says the US has been in very close touch with the South African government in the hours since Pierre Korkie's death. There are those who say that equally close conversations before the raid could have prevented it. Simon Marks, Washington.
Story. We are now joined by our US correspondent Simon Marks, and he's joining us from Washington. Simon, good afternoon. Thanks for speaking to us here on ENCA. First of all, we are hearing reports that the US intelligence service is saying that they didn't know about South African Pierre Korkie being held there as well when they launched their operation. How is that possible, since it's been reported so widely, well, especially here in South Africa?
It is an astonishing assertion, and it's not being made publicly by intelligence officials here. It's being made in private conversations with reporters, first published by the New York Times here late on Saturday. We're learning a good deal more now about this military raid on that compound in Yemen, where Pierre Korkie, the American photojournalist Luke Summers, and other hostages are believed to have been held. And in the last few minutes, it has been reported that this was a much more significant battle and firefight than had previously been reported. We now know that at least 11 people were killed in this attempt to rescue the hostage, including a woman, a 10-year-old boy, and a local Al-Qaeda leader. So there are clearly an enormous number of questions stacking up, certainly for the Obama administration on this side of the Atlantic, possibly also for authorities there, about what sort of communication existed in the hours leading up to the raid. It certainly appears to have been developed quite quickly by the Obama administration based on what it calls actionable intelligence. First of all, about the location of the hostages. Secondly, about what the United States deemed was the imminent danger, the imminent threat to the life of the British-born American hostage, Luke Summers, but also, of course, about what level of communication existed between South Africa and the United States about the nature of discussions with the Al-Qaeda group holding Pierre Korkie and the nature of any arrangements that may have been struck that would have led to his release.
Now, Simon, the aid organization Gift of the Givers in Yemen are quite upset. They've blamed the Americans for messing up their negotiations. What is the American response to that?
Well, there hasn't been a direct American response to those concerns, but throughout, from the moment at dawn here on Saturday, when news of all of this was initially disclosed by the White House, the American position has been, first of all, the life of an American citizen, Luke Summers, was in imminent danger. Remember that his captors had set a 72-hour deadline, saying that if their demands weren't met, he would be murdered. Secondly, they had intelligence about where Luke Summers and Pierre Korkie were being held. Thirdly, the long arm of American justice, as President Obama put it in his statement on Saturday, will reach wherever and whenever American lives are at risk. And I think there's no question that there is a distinction drawn here between the threat to the life of an American citizen and concerns that the White House may have had about other non-American hostages. In other words, about Mr. Korkie. And the motivating factor, as far as the White House was concerned, was trying to save the life of an American without necessarily, I think, finding itself in a position where the plight of Mr. Korkie and some of the other Western hostages was proving to be a particular brake on the decision to launch a military operation. So there's no question that this is a complex rhetorical thicket in which the government of the United States finds itself.
Simon, do you know whether the US intelligence services informed their South African counterparts about the planned operation?
We've had absolutely no word here whatsoever about, first of all, communication that may have existed between Washington and South Africa before the raid got underway, or perhaps even more importantly, communication that has taken place over the weekend since the death of Luke Summers and Pierre Korkie was disclosed. As I said on the program yesterday, it would be normal under these circumstances for President Barack Obama to pick up the telephone and call Jacob Zuma and at least discuss what had taken place, and we, as reporters based here, would then get a briefing, perhaps a small one, but we would at least be told that telephone conversation had occurred. We have not been told that any conversation has taken place. Whether it has or it has not would at this point be speculation, but it certainly would be normal for the President of the United States to reach out to the President of a foreign country after one of its nationals, in this case Pierre Korkie, was killed under such tragic circumstances. I keep checking my email, keep waiting for word from the White House. There's been nothing so far.
Simon, what more do you know about what actually happened on the ground? We've heard in reports that the American and Pierre Korkie died on a Navy ship or on a helicopter on their way out. Do you know more about the fighting that happened?
Yes, absolutely, Gustav. I mean, more details were disclosed last night. First of all, we do now know that they were both shot by their al-Qaeda captors as the raid got underway. And US officials are saying, look, the circumstances on the ground robbed them of the element of surprise that they believed was going to be absolutely essential to secure Mr. Summers and Mr. Korkie. It would seem that the second those helicopters started landing, up to 100 special forces in that village in Yemen, firing percussive stun grenades. The al-Qaeda hostage takers immediately shot Mr. Summers and Mr. Korkie. They were both airlifted to a US naval vessel off the coast of Yemen. One of them, we are told, we don't know which one, died on the helicopter taking him to the naval vessel. The other died on what's being described as the operating table aboard the naval ship. So those are the details as we have them, but the US insists that it was the absence of that element of surprise on the ground that robbed them of what they had hoped would be their ability to rescue both the hostages.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us live from Washington. That was our US correspondent Simon Marks on EN.